Welcome back. Amid this larger conversation on immigration enforcement, Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, both of Texas, visited 5-year-old Liam Ramos at an ICE detention center in the state yesterday. They're now calling for his release, days after the child was detained by federal immigration officers in Minnesota. Castro said the child has become depressed, has stopped eating, keeps asking to return to school, calling the case emblematic of what he described as inhumane detention practices. Crockett, for her part, criticized conditions at the facility, saying the child lacks clean clothes and access to education. On Monday, a federal judge temporarily blocked the deportation of Liam and his father. That's him right there. Again, the little kid with a Spider-Man backpack. Trump administration officials deny any wrongdoing in this instance, and they defended the detention as the case has sparked national outrage and intensified scrutiny of the administration's immigration enforcement strategy. It's a huge part of what's lending to this funding fight on Capitol Hill, where President Trump and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are reportedly working to negotiate limits on federal immigration agents, all to avoid a potential government shutdown. Officials familiar with the matter tell the New York Times the Senate may separate DHS funding from this broader 6-bill spending package. The Senate would then pass those other 5 bills before Friday at midnight, and that would avoid a shutdown. DHS, though, would be funded through a short-term extension, potentially, while lawmakers negotiate a revised bill. Schumer told MS Now yesterday 6 or 7 Republicans were already on board with splitting up the package, but 13 Republican votes would be needed to clear a filibuster and actually make that happen. As for a new bill, Democrats' demands for ICE agents take off their masks, wear body cameras, and halt random sweeps, as well as warrantless searches and arrests. All of those asks are being met with some strong resistance from Republicans. I want to bring in congressional reporter for Semafor, Eleanor Mueller. So, okay, there's a lot of different ways that this can ultimately go. I get the sense, though, that we are driving toward a shutdown that could last a few days over the weekend. I mean, what are the contours of this as you see it? Because Democrats now have put out their list of asks, and some Democratic senators have said to me, yeah, I've talked to Republicans who say this is actually pretty reasonable. Do you actually think that's the case, though, and are enough Republicans of that mindset?
I think so. I mean, I think a lot of these things were things that the White House was willing to agree to without legislation. The issue, of course, has been that Democrats don't trust the White House to deliver. They want this ensconced in law. And I do think we're going to see that package of funding bills passed, with the exception of a DHS bill that's split off, maybe funding levels extended temporarily while they keep negotiating. But the White House clearly is under a lot of pressure here. You know, we've seen senators who do not typically speak out against the White House, say that they believe something needs to be done. And so I think the rapidness with which officials have struck a deal with congressional Democrats this week has shown that they're really feeling the heat.
I agree with you completely, especially for a Congress and especially with Democrats in Congress not often hearing from this administration during legislative fights. I mean, they were stonewalled for the entire last government shutdown. Now, of course, it's a different landscape. And I think you're really right to point that out. It all sounds easy when you say, OK, we'll vote on the 5 bills and then we'll separate DHS and we'll just pass it. The House has to come back. They are not in town. No, and there's a snowstorm this weekend. So, like, what timeline do you even think we're looking at right now?
So funding lapses at midnight on Friday. Yeah. The House is supposed to be back Monday night. I think what's likely is that we have at least a weekend-long shutdown lapse. I mean, that's still a big deal. But then hopefully when they come back early next week, they'll be able to pass whatever Chuck Schumer and the White House have managed to agree on. The Freedom Caucus has raised some concerns. There's a few areas that could be tricky for House Republican leaders. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, this is a group of people that, under immense pressure, in fairness to them, have done what the White House has asked of them for the last year plus. And so I don't know that this next week will be any exception.
I think one of the thorny patches could be, you talk about the House Freedom Caucus, those ultra-conservative members, one of them, Chip Roy, coming out and saying, well, if we're going to reopen the DHS package, there's a lot of stuff that I would actually like to put into it. And that's where you get into a tricky space of, even if Senate Democrats and Republicans, along with the White House, agree, Trump might actually have to be the one to strong-arm this kind of a thing through. And I also think we need to point out, we've still yet to hear from Speaker Mike Johnson about what happened over the weekend in Minnesota, which is the entire reason why the dynamics have changed so much on Capitol Hill. We've got to point that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is in D.C. You know, we saw footage of him last night with Nicki Minaj after she appeared on stage with Trump. And so I wonder if, to a degree, he is involved in some of these closed-door negotiations. But you're right, we haven't seen him say much publicly, and we've gotten really no indication from House leaders as to what they can do. Chip Roy, of course, he's retiring. He's running for Attorney General of Texas. He has a much different political calculus than some of these Republicans in the Senate who have said that they think it's important for something to be done about this immigration enforcement problem. And I mean, I keep going back to Senator Ted Budd, who's someone not a lot of people have heard
yeah.
of. I mean, he's a Republican from North Carolina. He used to be a House guy. He came to the Senate. He's very careful, very measured, not someone who's super outspoken in the hallways. And he put out a tweet this week that was pretty unapologetic in terms of saying what happened was unacceptable. We need things to change. And so that, I think, is a big part of why, like we said, the White House is feeling so much pressure.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. This could be a moment, and I will fully admit that I started the week being pretty skeptical about Republicans who were putting out statements about their concern and not saying what the action item was out of it. Now we're starting to see them put a bit more meat on the bone. You've got, of course, Tillis and Murkowski saying that Noem should be out, quite defiantly saying that, might I add. And then also you've got people like Rand Paul telling me and others, OK, we need a special investigation. We need an independent investigation. We need honesty from our leaders. Again, the question I asked him was, is dishonesty an impeachable offense? I think that's one that they're going to have to answer. But yeah, I think you're right that this could be a moment where the dynamics are shifting. It's yet another potential inflection point for Republicans who at this point have come up to the line of maybe rhetorically criticizing this administration, but have not really put their votes where their mouth has been in the past. So we'll see. We're coming up on that precipice.